Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Marcellino Jr., Vice President of Sales with Lippolis Electric. For your information, Lippolis Electric is a 40-year business, family-owned company. We specialize in everything from residential service to commercial services, emergency service, energy efficiency, and technical services. And I'm happy to have with me today Dylan, also known as Komodo the Artist. Dylan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And before we dive into it, I just want to shine light on the two custom pieces that he had made for myself and Carmine Lippolis here. And we're gonna dive into the lights fell out in the back a little bit, but that's okay. No harm, no foul. You guys will understand why that's there in a little bit. So we're gonna talk a little bit about Dylan's his upbringing, how he got to, being a successful artist the way he is today, and then we're going to circle back and talk about these pieces and do a little live artwork if anybody cares to see me try and color in a picture over here. I don't know how that's going to go, but it'll be funny to watch. So Dylan, again, thank you for joining us. And just out of the gate, I kind of want to dive right into it. And I know you've had quite the journey, starting at a young age, around 12 years old. You were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Yep.
So that's a heavy diagnosis for a child to get, and also, too, with your aspirations of being an athlete throughout life. How did that kind of change your course of life, and how did you overcome that adversity, to enjoy childhood and also balance out diabetes and manage that, sickness, so to speak?
Yeah, so first off, thank you for having me, bro. I know we met about a year ago when I first started, this art journey. So we've been close ever since, and it's really awesome to hop on this podcast finally and kind of let people know who I am and kind of have a good talk. With the diabetes, I was 12 years old. I was actually playing football, bro. So I went to East Meadow, big sport family, baseball, lacrosse, football, boxing. We did the whole 9 yards. And while I was in 7th grade, I was on the field, and I had to go to the bathroom like 10 times during the practice. I was craving like sugary drinks, which is like the juice boxes or anything that my body was craving as the time you're kind of transitioning into a diabetic. So they took me to the hospital and basically told me right then and there, you're a type 1 diabetic. This is what you have for your life. And as a 12-year-old kid, I'm taking this in and saying, forever? I was looking at a doctor with like he had 8 heads. And I don't look back at it and saying there was any foul, malicious acts, but basically it was more of a blunt statement. And he looked at me in the face and said, you can't play football anymore. And what he really meant was, while I was learning and getting educated on what diabetes was really like, living with it, and learning the medicine, learning the doses, the adjustments, he really meant to learn and take a break with doing all the sports right off the bat. But I looked at it like a little kid telling you can't have candy. Yeah. So I stopped crying and I looked at him and I was like, what are you talking about, dude?
And I'm sure he did that, not, like you said, not to cripple your dreams, but like, an adult would process it as, I have to take a step back and focus on my health.
Yeah, and at least, not knowing anything about this, to learn it besides playing a very physical contact sport. So right then and there was the first time in my life that I said, if someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. And in that hospital bed, I said, I'm going to the NFL. I'm going to focus to be the best football player and teach kids and other adults or whoever that you could do anything if you're really putting your mind to it. So that right then and there, I started gaining weight, getting to the linebacker position. I wanted to go D1. So I got recruited by Stony Brook. And that was a different game, playing with people all around the country, 6'8", 350, 400-pound lineman, and I'm there. I was used to playing like in the mud, like in like a pig's den in East Meadow, and then I go to Stony Brook. There's this dome, I'm playing with people that came from $60 million high school stadiums in Texas, and learning about culture.
Those Texas boys are no joke when it comes to football.
No, I mean, it's really like religion down there.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Again, like the culture aspect, I was really able to connect and learn a lot. And, as the diabetic on the team, I told a lot of people, who cared about me, certain things that you should look out for. God forbid something happened if I was on the field. So, it really taught me diabetes, how to just say, you know, everybody has something in this world, in this life. And if you really want something, like I wanted to be an NFL player, I wasn't going to let anybody stop me. And it was how hard I worked to get there. So diabetes was very
Wow.
important to teach me that aspect of life.
So most, if not, 90% of the people that receive a diagnosis like that, and the families behind them, because at 12 years old, I'm sure your parents had a lot of decision making, thoughts, obviously, since you were a kid, in how your life was going to go from that point. So the fact you had the support of your family at that point to keep pursuing your dreams to play sports, and also as a kid, you learn at a very young age. It's like in life, there's going to be adversity. And it's a matter of how do I overcome that adversity to be successful and achieve the goals that I want to achieve to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And, that's a really good lesson to learn at a young age, because I feel like most of the people that I do business with or that I know in my life, friends, family, acquaintances, whoever it may be, that had to overcome adversity at one point in life, to go through a tough situation, whatever it may have been, it doesn't matter. Health, life events, it's tough times are tough times once they're all chalked up, But those people are the most resilient, disciplined, and, motivated individuals to achieve whatever their goals in life are.
Yeah.
And for you to have learned that at 12 years old, that mindset probably put you years ahead of people that are our age, trying to achieve goals, whether it's to get into that school, to play on that football team, or to start that business. You're like, you look back, whether you recognized it or not, and said, I overcame the mindset of type 1 diabetes and the physical effects of type 1 diabetes since I was 12 years old. I can achieve anything.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful story, and that's very powerful for those that may be listening that are struggling, who do have an ailment that is, probably weighing them down mentally on how to go about the next step in their life. So I really appreciate you opening up and sharing that piece of who you are.
Yeah.
And kind of progressing through your life. I mean, you mentioned Stony Brook, and I know you had a very successful beginning to a career with J.P. Morgan Chase on Wall Street. So prior to you becoming an artist and coming to current date, before we start talking about this, why don't you talk a little bit about your professional journey so people understand that, you didn't just kind of wake up one morning and start making art. You did pursue, you went through college, you played the football, you pursued the J.P. Morgan Wall Street career. So talk a little bit about that and that mindset of what it's like, from that 12-year-old boy overcoming the type 1 diabetes to the cutthroat streets of Wall Street, and what that's like, and how that kept, I guess, forming your mindset.
Yeah. So real quick, before I get into that, the one thing I'll say, just to piggyback off the last thing you said, is, what I really preach to people, and even if hopping on a podcast, talking to someone I'm really connecting with, I try to always just spread the message, be the how person rather than the why person. Because if you're thinking about the whys, why did this happen? Why am I in this situation? You're never going to get past that compared to the how. How can I overcome this? Whatever happened because that's life and it's meant to happen. But how do I understand in my head that this is meant to happen and not be focused on other people's lives and get caught up in that? So, yeah, but to go on your question with the Wall Street, so at Stony Brook, I was actually a marketing major. I was a marketing major, and was really focusing on football, going to the league. And once I broke my foot, I stayed with the team and was on the videography crew, so it was really cool to stay with my boys. But once I graduated, I was still in that aspect of money. I didn't really know where I was, who I was. And everybody going through steps in life, I was a business major. Someone I looked up to my whole life, my brother Tom Hippner. Since I was born, he's been a role model for me. Everything in my life, I looked up to him and not copied, but really got the benefit of learning something before really experiencing it with an older sibling. So he was in Charles Schwab. I graduated. He's a CFP. And I said, Tommy did it, I could do it. Just like everything, let me do that. So I said, I want to be a financial advisor, but I'm a marketing guy. Let me work at a few Chase branches and then work internally, prove myself, and then get promoted to be a JP Morgan financial advisor. Essentially, I manifested it. And within 2 years, I got to Wall Street. I switched over to JP Morgan, got my Series 7, Series 65, and I had the best partners in the world, dude. This guy Ken, this guy Anthony, Ken Gates and Anthony Anzalone, kind of like father figures for me. Senior guys in the company that took me under the wing, and just like a lot of things in my life, gave me an opportunity to skip a couple of steps and propel myself. So in April, I passed the 7. It was a $1 billion book. It was my life, my dream to be this top advisor in the company. And I'm a very spiritual guy. I'm very connected with my nanny who passed, and I feel like she's with me every day. I have her name on my chest. I feel the energy. And one day, I was just doing tattoos. I was making random art. I was being creative while I was at JP. Some voice in my head said, get your art out there. Get it out. And then in 3 weeks is a story that I gave art to Tyson, 50, and then I was with Saquon at an event, and it's when I met Tony Peck. Tony looked at me in the face that night and said, do me a favor, here's my number, but text me when you follow your dream. That's when I want to hear from you. And he was kidding, but I took it. I went home that night and I was, wow, that was powerful. And essentially, the next day I had a vision of my future living at JP Morgan, making $1 million a year and, following that path compared to being my true self, my heart, and focusing on being rich with my heart and myself, and all my relationships in life will be 10 times better, and 10 times more money will come being authentic and being real. So I walked in the bank the next day after that vision and I said, I love you guys, but peace. And they looked at me and said, where are you going, bro? You're going to Morgan Stanley. You're going to Goldman. Don't tell me it's Schwab with your brother. I'm like, no, guys. I'm going to paint, baby. I'm going to be an artist. This is me. I'm Komodo. I'm sorry that, it's a crazy, all of a sudden, response. But instead of 2 weeks, I'll give you 2 months. Let me exit the right way because I love you guys. I'm respectful. And I don't want to just get up and leave and not care about you guys.
Yeah.
They said that's not how it works in the bank, baby. You got to pack your bags up today. You got the cardboard box. And all my coworkers are hearing the story. They're looking at me like I have 10 heads. And I'm on the subway in Manhattan with the cardboard box, thinking back at these movies I watched with all my stuff, my materials. And people are looking at me like, this guy just got fired. I'm in my suit. It was hot in the subway. There's a little sweat going. And people are like, this guy had a rough day. But why is he smiling? Because I had to smile from ear to ear. Because in my head, just like life, doesn't matter what people think.
100%.
What's in your heart? What's pushing you to do something? I was just smiling, bro. I wasn't trying to. I was just happy, saying today's the day that the book of Dylan Hipner is going to start a new chapter.
It wasn't like the scene in The Wolf of Wall Street when the cop was sitting on the subway after he got a lobster thrown at him by Leonardo DiCaprio on his yacht. It wasn't like that.
A little different.
A little different.
Wall Street, though.
It was Wall Street. It was a happy story though, and fortunately you had no fallouts like Stratton and Oakmont. But
yeah, thank God.
That would be a completely different story. Although that would be an interesting one to hear. I'd love to hear that live. Jordan Belfer, if you're listening, I'd love to have you on the podcast.
Need some art, Jordan?
In all honesty, that's a beautiful story, and the willingness to follow the dreams and trusting yourself to follow your dreams is so important. Whatever your vehicle is, whether it's art, whether it's business, whether it's electrical construction or music, whatever that is, whenever you find that thing that you wake up in the morning, and you're like, I love doing this. It's important for people to just get up and follow their dreams, and that's something that, like at our company, we really do believe, at the end of the day, look, I work with an electrical construction company. Mm-hmm. Carmine Lippolis has owned this business for 40 years. We have a podcast. This is something I love to do, but at the same time, we're building brand awareness. We're bringing people on. We have the opportunity to talk to interesting guests like yourself throughout all different, vertical markets. And, we're providing a platform for people to educate themselves, be motivated, and also learn a little bit about what we do here at Lippolis Electric. And that's one thing that I could really attribute to Carmine Lippolis' mindset who started this business and fully supports, the idea of this podcast is, you have to motivate people.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make sure people feel empowered, and that's how everyone around you is going to grow. So I'm happy to hear that, you were willing to follow your dreams, because it sounds like, the situation you had on Wall Street with JP Morgan, you could have probably been there forever and, had a wonderful life,
Yeah.
outside of doing what you love.
Not to interrupt you, but that's where the pause happens, because that vision that I just had, which is weird. I had, like, that's why I know it's my nanny. Things
Yeah.
happen. I never had a vision like that. When I saw that vision, I saw myself as $1 million producer at JP. I saw myself with the big mansion, the yacht, the cars, all the
glory,
everything materialistic I wanted in my life, that I thought, wow, I got to do this to get to this level. In that vision, I had everything I wanted, but I was not happy. The vision was dark. It was cold. And that was the time that I realized, again, you hear most successful people talk about it, people who have become very wealthy, that we're not. The type of things, that you think that are going to make you happy or not. Your health, your family, just waking up every day and saying, I'm alive, baby. What is today going to be like? That's where you're rich. And, once people could really understand that, then things start to just happen.
So talk to us a little, and you kind of just set that up perfectly. Things just happen. Why don't you tell the people listening some of your successes so far with the art journey?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the celebrities, athletes, or businesses that you've made art for. In this past year, since making that major decision to take that shift and go towards, this is your vehicle to success, so to speak. Who have you worked with? What are some of your more, proud moments in the past year of doing art?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I could talk about that all day, but I'm going to condense this right now for this podcast. How it kind of started was Dylan Hipner, the artist Komodo, transitioning not from any position, but just doing something different. My love for people will never change. As a wealth management advisor, my real job was connecting with people, building long-lasting relationships, being their friend, seeing what their timeline was like, what their situation, their family, if they had any debt, and really getting to know them. My favorite type of art I do is connecting with people and figuring out what means a lot to them. So the art doesn't really have to make me smile, but if I could get the biggest smile out of you, that's my goal, and that's what gives me the smile. So right off the bat, I connected with everyone and anyone, who's entertainers, athletes. Like I said, right off the bat, it was Mike Tyson, 50 Cent, Saquon, the Spice Girls, Kurt Angle, The Big Show, Deion Sanders, Kevin from The Office. The list, it's a lot, and every single piece made for that person, I found where they were. I ran up on them. I said, how bad do I want this? I'm going to find these people, and I'm going to give them a piece of art and connect with them, right? So that happened, and it was awesome. It was such a sick experience to really give pieces to a lot of bigger names, but I don't care about big names. I care about people. So it started to segue to the commission pieces I was doing, where I really connect with businesses, individuals, entrepreneurs, and start the career in the aspect where I'm driving sales. So about 3-4 months in, finding everyone and anyone where they were, I got to the point where I got noticed, I got recognized, started to sell pieces for 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it's coming to the 4 or 5 figure range and only going up to the moon.
That's awesome.
Those are the bigger names, but to answer your question, giving a piece to 50 Cent wasn't my favorite. Last week at the Nick Singh Foundation at Hofstra University, we had this kid, Logan Alexander, come, and this 8-year-old boy battling really, really crazy heart disease, about 7 open heart surgeries, never was able to play on a basketball team because his heart condition, it's a big liability, God forbid something happens. So Hofstra, Nick Singh Foundation, by Cal Chevrolet, who's a sponsor, came together. I created Logan a piece of art, all with his favorite things, a basketball hoop on the piece. And we had a whole weekend for him We signed him to the team for a one-day contract. We put the hat on him, and the whole team was in the locker room clapping. We got him a locker with his picture. He was on the court at halftime shooting free throws, and he was the happiest kid. And at the end of the event, he ran up to me. I don't even think he knew my name, but he came out with two big open arms and started hugging me. And he's up to my knees. I'm 6'3", so he's hugging my kneecap, and I'm sitting there saying, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to change the world through art, connecting with people, not only figuring out what people like and doing commission pieces, which I love, but also being there for people who need it. As a type 1 diabetic myself, my Aunt Julie was someone who was there for me from the start and was like, I'm a type 1 diabetic. Let me help you. This is what you need to do. I'm in your corner. So if I could be there for other people, why wouldn't I? And that's what the world needs. More people who are going to be educational, more people who are going to be there. So anybody listening, I mean, doesn't have to be diabetes. Anybody going through something, I'm always willing to talk and be a positive voice if someone needs it.
That's beautiful, man. I really appreciate that. And I almost started choking up when you were talking about the.
I did a little.
That's my heart goes out to people that struggle with health, especially having a son and one on the way. As from a parent's perspective, my kids are my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So to know, fortunately my son is healthy and happy, and
God bless.
when I see families struggle, it's it hits me in the chest, and I'm happy to hear that you guys were able to provide an experience that I'm sure this boy will never forget.
Ever,
you
yeah.
know, and his family won't ever forget.
Yeah. And when I looked at him, that's what I told him. I said, I don't want to just I don't want you to just have a picture of this event. I want you to have a piece of art with everything we did this event as a memory, a collage that later in life, forget about the money. You could look back on this and close your eyes and remember everything we did through a piece of art I made you. And that, dude, that's invaluable,
Yeah.
So the art of giving without receiving is so huge. And a lot of people, not only our age, but people that are, my elders, people I look up to, don't understand that. A lot of things, it's what's in it for me. Where's the dollars? Where's the help? Where's the opportunity?
Everyone's cutthroat.
And it's karma. People think you do something right, what's in it for me? I think it's called dharma, the opposite, where it's like you just do things to do the right thing. And then the universe will put greatness in your life. But when you're asking for it and you're doing things for that reason, like a lot of people, that's the opposite of how I look at,
I agree,
go about my day of
100%.
life.
So let's transition a little here. I want to talk a little bit about what we got. Number one, again, I know I thanked you in the beginning, but I want to thank you again, for putting these two pieces together for myself and Carmine Lippolis. I'll be sure to capture Carmine's reaction when I give him the piece later.
I hope you like it, Carmine.
So talk to me a little. What did you put together here?
Yeah, so I'll just tell everybody watching the audience that, again, what I do, what I love to do is get to know you, everything about you. What do you love? What's sentimental? What are things that are dear to your heart? Family, business, hobbies, passions. We're both the artists. Let me pick your brain. Let's get 50 ideas on the table. There might be 5 great ideas, but I want to pick the best one. And the longest process for me to create art is not physically doing it, but it's the vision, because I'm really a visionary. Even with the team around me, whether it's sculptures, paintings, anything and everything, able to do with my mind and be able to see pieces before they're created. I saw this when it was a white canvas, completely done. That's what was the longest process for me to take to say, where do I want everything, right? So Steve said he loves being a leader with his family and his business. Family first is the most important thing to him. So we got always lead, family first, entrepreneurship, and being I'll just say it how it is, a boss. Being a boss not only for yourself and for your paycheck, but being a leader in the office or where you're working. The Yankees, big thing you mentioned to me, the Yankees and the Knicks, put some basketball that I cut up here. Travel was a big thing you said to me. So in this section, I wanted to put a palm tree. You're golfing on the course. You're smoking a cigar on the course while you're playing some golf. and then you go to the beach after and you look at some shells. So it's a little scene.
I like that.
And then you were telling me, in the best ways, you were savage. Again, being a leader, being a business guy. That's how, and I feel the same way. And over there, I wanted to kind of have it the savage theme, where not it's so
really
crazy,
cool.
but I put the bullet, the cigar, the cork, the poker chip.
So some may attribute that side of the canvas to Scarface, but we'll let the listeners
not a
make
bad
that
thing.
determination if they want.
Let's go. It's not a bad thing. The world is yours.
No, I love that. This thing is awesome. What about the bottom with the skyline?
So the bottom, yeah, I wanted to incorporate the city. Being from New York, there's a lot of things that I include in pieces that I love. So I'll get your visions, but like I said, we're both the artists. So don't think I'm not going to put a little couple of surprises in there. I think will be incorporated well. For example, the tiger in the city. My two biggest things, besides my love for people, my family, are animals. Komodo art is really related to animals. If you look at all my pieces, even the commission pieces, there's some type of animal or wildlife incorporated.
No,
So
the
that's
tiger's
my
sick.
Komodo touch. Your pet tiger, you're welcome. You can name him whatever you want. Tony the tiger. The city, again, my story. I'm from, yes, New York, but born and raised in Long Island. But my career, ended up to the city. Before I would always go out with my friends and stuff, but working every day in the city, it will always be dear to my heart because I loved my job, I loved my guys. It was just a different chapter for Komodo. So that's kind of the different aspects. And you, again, being the right there, the savage. I said, I'm not going to put a koala bear, right? We got to put a predator. We can't have this guy looking so serious, ready to close deals, and then have a teddy bear next to him.
Yeah,
So
no, listen.
had to fit everything in, but it was mainly your vision. You gave me that list, and it was a laundry list. It was like a receipt from which I love because I told you to do that. It's a receipt from CVS, from the ceiling to the floor. And I said, all right. And then I said, you know what? I can't put this or this in because even though it represents him, we could do another piece in the future.
100%.
I don't want something to look too gaudy or not look like it's fit in for the piece.
And then talk to us a little bit about the piece you made here for Carmine.
So when you hold that, the one thing I want to tell you, so basically you got to mount that light right there because once we turn the lights off, you'll see the whole thing lights up.
Here, I'll let you hold it.
Yeah. So this is what I made for Carmine. So basically I wanted to keep it very...
Real quick, can we hit the lights in the room fast so he could show the back? Quick 2 seconds so he could show everybody how it lights up.
So we got that. So when you light it up, there's buttons on the back. You can actually change the different lights. You could have it a warmer yellow. You could have it flashing. I personally love this one the best, which is more like a fading it out. But it just adds that touch to it, right? And I always want to add more to a piece. So when I was done with this, I said it needs one more touch. Why I didn't finish the logo? Because we are going to finish it live. Even though it's a little more simple, I think it'll be cool to have Steve become the artist for a little bit. So you'll see what we're talking about and see if he's up to it.
I've done a lot of things. Art was never in my wheelhouse, but I'll give it a try today for the people watching. So what was the inspiration behind the piece for Carmine? Talk a little bit about it apart from the lights.
So the inspiration was really, being a New York-based business. That again, do you see what I'm saying? It's a lot of stuff I incorporated because it means a lot to me, but also the business. I wanted to keep it. You explained it to me, with the Italian background. That means a world. I'm Sicilian myself, and besides being an Irish guy from Donegal from Northern Ireland, I also got the Sicilian in me, and that means more than just the flag. Because if you're Italian, you know what this means, and it's family, it's heritage, it's bringing people together. I wanted to do the logo in the middle in the white strategically to pop it out. This is what we're gonna finish, and then what I wanted to do was have the sky kind of aspect where. Yes, it looks like daytime now, but when you close the lights, it gets a little darker outside. It's going to be darker on this piece too, and we'll turn the stars on.
That's awesome.
So, these type of pieces, I like to keep them a little bit more focused on the brand, the business, unless otherwise my collector says, I want crazy. I want tigers running around the whole logo. I don't care. I said, you're the boss. I'm here to work for you.
It's awesome there.
So yeah.
Let me grab it.
And thank you, Carmine. I hope you like it. And like I said, what we'll do is we'll just mount that right there.
Let's get this thing going here. Let's paint in the blue on the Lippolis logo and show these people what I got. See what I'm made of.
All right, let's do it. So I'm basically, just to let you know, what I'm doing, we're coloring it in, we're filling in the L. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move this piece. I'll sit right here. I'm gonna outline it and start it for you, and then I want you to take the marker, and it means a little more. Now when you look at it, you say, that's my brushstroke. Where's my commission?
All right, so we had to move a couple things around over here. We're back though. So we're gonna let Dill, fill this in a little bit over here and talk to us about his process when making a piece. So
yeah,
go for it. I don't know. Listen, you're skilled. If I tried to talk and draw at the same time, I can't guarantee you I would draw a straight line.
So I'm gonna just do this and basically to tell you the process of what I'm doing. So right now, as I'm doing the logo, being we wanted to do something live. We're just getting, right now this color is just a blue solid color with the logo. So, usually I'll be real. I'll get someone to hop in and paint a little bit, which kind of my process I wanted Steve to do. But at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure these lines are crispy and not have Steve go out of the line. So, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I can't guarantee the lines would have been straight if I was doing that, especially with no table or anything. That, with my luck, I'd probably put the Sharpie through the canvas, to be completely honest.
No, we're not doing that here. But so talk to me, right? Have you, were you ever into art, or did you do it? Do you in school? Did you like doing art? Do you appreciate more as a collector?
Listen, I always was interested by art. I can't say I was ever good at it or, performed it, so to speak. I obviously went to art class in school and, I was the stick figure and, I was able to make the cool Superman S's and
Nothing
stuff.
wrong with that. I love those with the 3 lines and you connect them.
Especially with my name.
You could do that when you were in elementary school. You were the man.
Well, that was something I was taught from a young age by my father because our names are Stephen. So it was like a key staple to be able to make that S when I was filling out a school paper. But no, listen, I always found art very interesting. I'm really into music. Live performances. I've been to multiple art museums, MoMA, and different places throughout the city and other countries or states that I've traveled to. But I never really got into it myself just because I'm not artistic in the sense of, being able to put a picture or a painting together. But
have you tried recently?
No, I personally haven't tried. I got my
honesty.
Honestly, my son's really into it. He's actually really good at drawing. He makes Iron Man and Sonic and all these
like all the characters and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm like, how did you learn how to do that? But my wife is a makeup artist, so there definitely is some art in his blood. Definitely not for me, but some of the makeup she could do and the drawing she can make is just insane. She went to the Makeup Forever Academy.
How long has she owned that business?
She doesn't own a makeup business now, but she went to school for it. All throughout high school, she graduated from the Makeup Forever Academy in Manhattan. At one point, she had an opportunity to go to Paris to do makeup.
Oh wow!
She didn't wind up going for other reasons, but she's a unbelievable makeup artist. She can do like special effects and all these different things. And I'm not going to start trying to get technical here with what she's able to do.
But she loves it though, right? She loves it. And she wakes up every day and she probably works harder than anybody, but she probably doesn't feel like it's as much work because she loves what she's doing.
Yeah, she loves it. So there's that side of it. So that, I guess, my connection to art, that's as far as it goes with my wife being involved with makeup. But I do love, aside from the art, I love framing sports memorabilia and different types of jerseys and stuff like that. So having the idea of having an art piece or a photo or a painting on the wall has always been something that I really like.
Special,
yeah, especially when it's custom made for me. That makes it even more
more special.
Special. So it's definitely cool. So How long does it take you, like, to make a piece like the one you did for me or this one for Carmine? What's the process behind it?
Yes, that's kind of like what I was getting into before. So me is not only just an artist, but as a true visionary, I basically, like I told you, see the pieces before they're done. So I might have to sit there and just look at the canvas. And there'd be nights where I just don't get any physical work done. And I'm thinking, and if you see me alone, you might be like, dude, this guy looks crazy. Because I'm just pacing around, I'm looking, and my brain's just like ding, 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 ding. Things are going on. What happens is I'm adding things and I'm taking things out as I go. So things I'll basically say, you know what, this is a great idea, or this is too much in it. So, you know, it's a piece like this. Once I get the vision down, then I could go to work because I see everything in my head. But it might take, for some pieces, a month, you know, a few weeks to get that vision. Gotcha. And then it starts from there. And then once I have the vision, it's clockwork. So do you know anything about art? Do you have any favorite artists?
Aside from the...
like history, like about...
No, aside from the typical Van Gogh and Michelangelo and all the I guess, greats you would consider an art. I don't know too much about art. The only artist I know and need to know about is Komodo.
There we go. I knew that was coming, baby.
We'll leave it at that for now. You know, I don't want to throw any of your competitors' names out here.
Hey man, I love what I do right now so much in the aspect too that at JP Morgan, you know, I looked at myself more like a financial doctor rather than a salesman. But at the end of the day, being a sales-oriented position, I did feel every day I would going in there to people I was talking to on the phone in person, like, this might be a potential sale. I need to think, I'm thinking about what I'm saying so much, and I'm, again, not really being myself.
No,
as this artist life,
you weren't enjoying it.
I don't want to push someone to buy my art. I don't want to be salesy. People are going to find out who I am. And if they don't already, and they don't want a piece, see you later, Bob. Joe wants a piece right around your block. So have a good dinner with your wife, Susie, and I'm done with you. I don't need a thing, you know? So at the end of the day, you know, it's really nice to just be able to create and just be happy.
And have no strings attached.
When I was at JP, and again, this might sound bad, but every weekend I wanted to go out. I knew what days of the weekend it were, and it was a routine, it was a habit to the point now I don't even want to go out. Yeah. All the events I'm going to, all the private shows, that's more than and crazier things I've done just going to bars or clubs through my work, through what I'm actually doing, and it feels like I'm not working at all.
That's awesome.
You know, every day I wake up and I just feel like I'm living my best life that I chose. So, again, your message to a lot of people saying sometimes you got to take a leap, because more risk comes more reward. But without taking that risk, you
don't know.
You know, you don't know. And you know, it's sad because a lot of people I talk to, you know, who have age and experience on me, a lot of them say, if I could have went back, I would have done this. If I could have relived and focused a little bit on something, I would have done it. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to look back at my life and say, I wish I did that, man. I'd rather look back at myself and say, damn, I did that?
Yeah. So it looks like you're putting the final touches on there.
Yep.
And then we'll start winding down the show once you wrap that up. But before we wind the show down, I know you mentioned you have an event coming up. Why don't you just throw out a couple of details about that before I cue us out over here?
Yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. I got my first ever live show, the Komodo show. That's going to be next Friday, March 7th at American Legion in Massapequa. We got Patrizia's in Massapequa sponsoring it, so all you could eat, full buffet style, the best food you could have.
Nice.
You know, we got a DJ, we got the live art show. All my art's going to be displayed. It's a free event, free entry, free food, the free show. So it's going to be a really awesome time to get people together and just have a great Friday night.
Awesome.
And anybody watching, if you click the link, well, maybe we can make it pop up somewhere. Please RSVP, come. I would love to see everybody there. We got about 100 people coming, and it's going to be an awesome time. And thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that.
Definitely. You're welcome, buddy. So why don't you, I know you have to put a couple more touches on that.
But yeah, it's basically just for the time
before
frame.
We hand it out, but hold it up and let people see. So That's the piece drawn together. The Lippolis Electric logo embedded in the Italian flag above New York City with the lights and everything. So that's awesome, man. I really
and Carmine,
appreciate it.
again, look forward to meeting you in person as well. But I hope you like it. This is the main message for the piece. So again, thank you, and thank you, Steve, for having me on here, bro.
Not a problem. And I'd like to thank all the listeners here for watching another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Marcellino, Vice President of Sales with Lippolis Electric. Have a great day.